In every generation, stories emerge that remind us strength is not always loud, flashy, or wrapped in muscle. Sometimes, it moves quietly in the corners of a room, pushing a mop, sweeping a floor, or simply enduring what others fail to notice. And sometimes, the right pair of eyes sees that quiet strength and refuses to let it remain invisible. This is one of those stories, one that rippled through a martial arts community, reshaped the gym's culture, humbled an arrogant man, and ultimately revealed that heroism often arrives in the most unassuming form. Picture a nearly empty martial arts studio in the early morning hours. A cavernous room, still cool from the night, carrying the faint smell of sweat, disinfectant, and worn-out leather pads. The Pacific Dragon Martial Arts Center, tucked against the edge of Los Angeles' Chinatown, wasn't glamorous. It wasn't built to impress outsiders. It was built for disciplined sweat, bruised knuckles, and the slow, painful mastery of skill. A place where legends had trained, dreams had been crushed, and reputations forged. A place where humility mattered more than spectacle. At least it was supposed to be. On one unremarkable morning, before the city had fully awakened, a scene unfolded inside that gym that would spark a chain of events no one, not the trainers, not the students, not the press, could have predicted. It began not with fists or flying kicks, but with an insult that sliced through the silence like a blade. Well, look at that. Mop boy still moving like he has two working knees. The words didn't just echo, they poisoned the air. They carried arrogance, mockery, and a tone that suggested the speaker was used to getting away with it. That speaker was Brett Carson, a trainer whose sculpted physique and high-energy personality had made him the gym's golden boy. Clients admired him. Some even adored him. But beneath his confident veneer lived a tendency to belittle those who couldn't fight back. And standing in the splash zone of his contempt was Mr. Howard Kim, a 72-year-old janitor with a thin frame and a quiet presence. He had been with the gym longer than the trainers, longer than most of the trophies that lined the walls, longer than Brett by decades. He worked without complaint, without expectation of praise, and without a hint of ego. Every morning, he arrived before dawn and left long after the last student cleared out. He was, in every sense, the backbone no one ever bothered to notice. On this particular day, someone was watching, someone whose presence would change everything. Bruce Lee stood quietly in the corner, sipping warm oolong tea, observing with a gaze that cut deeper than any kick he could deliver. After the cancellation of the Green Hornet, he'd returned to training with renewed intensity. But his sessions here weren't about fame. They were about refinement, discipline, and preparation for a future he believed would require more philosophy than punches. The gym wasn't just a place to train. It was his sanctuary. And yet, what he saw that morning disturbed him. Bruce had witnessed disrespect before. He'd seen trainers show off, students mock beginners, egos inflate out of control. But what Brett directed toward Mr. Kim wasn't mere teasing. It was corrosive, the type of cruelty that spreads if no one stops it, the type that grows roots. As the insult lingered in the air, Bruce's expression tightened. His eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with awareness. Something was wrong in this space he cherished, something that went beyond one rude comment. It was a sign of rot, subtle but growing. When the gym manager, Denise, approached him with a nervous smile and a shrug, saying, "He's like that, but people love him," Bruce didn't respond. He simply watched. He watched Brett switch to an overly charismatic persona the moment he saw Bruce. He watched him brag, boast, and flirt with his students. And he watched the moment Brett turned away again, muttering insults, this time quiet enough he assumed no one could hear. But Bruce heard it all. Later, when Bruce found Mr. Kim quietly refilling paper cups at the water dispenser, hands trembling ever so slightly, he knelt beside him. It was a small gesture, but one that carried weight. It showed respect where none had been given, and it marked the beginning of something Brett would never see coming. This wasn't the story of a martial artist showing off his skill. This wasn't about a dramatic fight or a public spectacle. This was about integrity, compassion, and the choice to step in when someone else is being stepped on. It was about Bruce Lee confronting a reality many overlook, that injustice grows when good people remain silent. This is the story of how a janitor's quiet dignity collided with a bully's unchecked ego. How Bruce Lee, a man known for his lightning-fast kicks and revolutionary philosophy, chose to fight, but not with fists. Instead, with humility, respect, and a demonstration the martial arts world would never forget. This is the day Bruce Lee flipped more than a bully. He flipped the entire room's understanding of what strength truly means. The morning after Bruce had witnessed the first insult, he arrived at Pacific Dragon even earlier than usual. The sky outside was still a muted blue, the sun barely hinting at its arrival. The gym lights flickered to life one row at a time, illuminating the polished wooden floorboards, the heavy bag swaying gently from the draft, and the faint steam rising from Bruce's thermos of oolong tea. He preferred these quiet hours. They were peaceful, focused, undisturbed. But today, beneath that calm, something else stirred, an unease he couldn't shake. He took his usual position in the shadowed corner, leaning against the wall with a towel draped over his shoulder. His breath was slow, controlled, steady. He wasn't here to intervene in anyone's conflicts. He wasn't here to police behavior. But yesterday's scene replayed in his mind in a loop. Brett's smug grin, the condescending tone, the way Mr. Howard absorbed the insult like someone who had learned long ago that objecting only made things worse. Bruce watched the door. Brett arrived next, swaggering as always, his gym bag slung loosely over one shoulder, wireless headphones around his neck, confidence radiating off him like heat from asphalt. The moment he spotted his reflection in the wall mirror, he adjusted his tank top to better show off his biceps. He admired himself before greeting anyone else. Students trickled in soon after, young professionals, college athletes, parents trying to rediscover their physical confidence. They respected Brett for his intensity. He could run a conditioning class. So hard people staggered out trembling, proud of themselves for surviving it. But what most of them didn't see was the other side. The sharpness in his tone, the impatience when someone struggled, the superiority that seeped into his words when he thought no one important was listening. Bruce noticed everything. He noticed when Brett's expression changed the instant he spotted him. The bravado inflated. The posturing began. He cracked jokes louder than usual, showed off stretches that were more dramatic than functional, and positioned himself in the center of the gym like a performer waiting for applause. And Bruce watched with an unreadable expression. But it wasn't Bruce Brett wanted to impress today. It was the class. And perhaps more importantly, it was the man he had belittled the day before. Mr. Howard was already working, his navy blue uniform freshly laundered, his mop moving with slow, rhythmic precision. He wasn't just cleaning the gym, he was maintaining its heartbeat. Every sweep was deliberate, every movement measured, as though each action held meaning. And it did. To him, this wasn't a job. It was a duty, a way of showing respect to the space that held so many stories. Brett, however, only saw him as background noise. Once class ended and the last student tossed their towel aside before leaving, Brett's tone shifted again. The charming trainer vanished. In his place stood the bully Bruce had seen yesterday. Brett grabbed a soaked gym towel, dripping with sweat from a student's conditioning drill. He tossed it onto the floor with a careless flick of his wrist. Then, with exaggerated nonchalance, he unscrewed his coffee lid and tilted it downward. A stream of dark liquid splashed onto the mat in a deliberate curve right beside the towel. Clean up on aisle pathetic. Brett announced to no one in particular. He didn't look at Mr. Howard. He didn't need to. The insult was a performance, and the act itself was the punchline. Bruce's jaw tightened. He didn't move. Not yet. This wasn't his moment to intervene. This was his moment to understand, to observe, to confirm whether yesterday had been an isolated outburst or the symptom of something deeper. Mr. Howard approached the mess slowly. No frustration, no protest, just the same resigned acceptance he'd shown the day before. He kneeled with a rag in hand. His knees creaked softly as he bent, but he continued working silently. That silence said more than any complaint could have. Later that night, after most of the gym had emptied, Bruce found Denise, the manager, organizing membership forms in her office. He asked the question he had pushed down since yesterday. How long has that been happening? Denise hesitated. Her fingers froze halfway through sorting a stack of papers. Bruce, she sighed, It's been getting worse." Bruce didn't interrupt. "But Howard never complains," she added, as if that made it acceptable. "He's quiet, dependable. He just shows up and works. I don't think he wants attention." Bruce shook his head. Not complaining doesn't mean he doesn't feel it. Denise shifted uncomfortably, her voice dropping. "I can't afford drama. Brett brings in the crowd, the younger ones especially. Howard, well, he's sort of invisible to them." That word, invisible, hit Bruce like a slap. Invisible? A man who had cleaned their sweat, scrubbed their blood off mats, polished their trophy cases since 1954? A man older than nearly everyone who trained here? A man who had given decades of labor and dignity to this place? Bruce didn't argue. He didn't scold. He simply walked out with a quiet intensity that made Denise regret her words instantly. But Bruce didn't go home after that conversation. He stayed. He watched the gym empty. He watched the lights dim. And then he walked toward Mr. Howard, who was alone sweeping dust from the corners. Bruce reached for another mop. Mr. Howard startled. "What are you doing?" Bruce smiled softly. "Learning." They worked side by side in silence. Two men at different points in life. One a global icon in the making, the other an elderly janitor with a history no one had cared to know. But that night, something changed. Respect met humility. Recognition met invisibility. And a spark was lit. One that would soon burn its way into the very heart of Pacific Dragon. The next morning, Bruce arrived before the sky had shaken off the last traces of night. The street outside was still quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against the windows and settles into the walls of the place. Inside Pacific Dragon, only one sound echoed gently through the gym, the soft whisk of a broom moving across the floor. Mr. Howard was already working. His routine was as predictable as sunrise. Dust the trophy case. Straighten every pad and mitt. Sweep the corners first, then the open floor. Wipe the mirrors with a precision that would have made a drill sergeant proud. It was a ritual, steady, methodical, practice over decades. Bruce stood in the entryway for a moment, observing. Something in the scene struck him as profoundly symbolic. The martial arts world often worshiped high kicks, flying fists, and explosive power. Yet here was a man demonstrating discipline and presence without throwing a single punch. And hardly anyone noticed. Bruce approached quietly, holding 2 cups of tea. "You start earlier every day," he said. Mr. Howard looked up with a faint smile. "The dust doesn't wait." Bruce handed him a cup. "Neither do I." They stood side by side, sipping tea in companionable silence. No lessons, no lectures, just mutual respect simmering slowly like the warm liquid between their hands. Over the next few days, this became their rhythm. In the end, this story isn't just about Bruce Lee, a legendary martial artist, stepping in during a moment of injustice. It's about what true strength really looks like. Quiet, humble, and rooted in respect for every human being, no matter their title or position. Mr. Howard didn't throw a single punch, yet he showed more discipline, dignity, and resilience than anyone expected. And Bruce Lee reminded everyone that a real warrior doesn't use his power to intimidate, but to uplift, protect, and honor those around him. Stories like this challenge us. They force us to ask ourselves who we become when no one is watching, and who we choose to defend when it would be easier to stay silent. At the end of the day, Bruce didn't just flip a bully. He flipped the entire idea of what strength means. And now, I'll leave you with this. If you were standing in that gym, watching it all unfold, what would you have done? Would you stay silent, or would you stand up? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or made you see martial arts in a new way, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss another story that leaves you speechless. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay strong, stay humble, and always stand up for what's right.